So we have 3 Romas right here. They are growing fantastic. They were yay high, and now they're yay high. But as they grow, we need to do a few things with them, and they all are going to need it. I haven't touched a single one of them yet. So let's look at it. I mean, some of you already can see what's going on. I mean, we don't want any extra debris in there, obviously, but the main thing is so you see these little Y right here. So this is a common, structure for plants. It's just a normal thing, and you'll see that there's little spots growing like right there and right there. These are called suckers. The ones that kind of pop up in here in the little Y shape, those are suckers, and we want those gone. So we'll go snip, bye-bye. And so anytime you see one of those suckers, you want to trim it off. And then really the next other thing is you look for any. This one's actually doing fantastic. Doesn't have any, but if you had any limbs that wanted to just like grow ridiculously fast or something like that, and they're kind of like rogue limbs and whatnot, and so you would want to get rid of those because they are basically just growing out of control. So like I said, I mean, we got little spots. That's one I took care of right there. Then there's this one down here. And yeah, you just want to get rid of these things because we want it to grow at the flowers and whatnot, and not taking any of that energy and wasting it on growing more branches right here that may or may not actually produce. And so you can see where they are. So there's another one right there. Yeah, so I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna trim every single one of these here suckers off, and then we will go from there. Okay, so you have taken care of your tomato plants, and now they will, they're gonna send all that energy to those tomatoes. But now you got to look at your pepper plants, because if you're growing any of the things that I mentioned, peppers were part of it. Now when it comes to the peppers, you got some time. So basically I'm not going to touch any of this yet. I'm gonna let this get a little bigger. I'm gonna wait until I see some flowers popping up. There's some stuff taking place, like you can see right there. There's something, but basically if that ends up being the lowest flower right there, then everything below that I'm going to trim off, because that is you want to trim all the leaves off from the lowest flower down, and then let it just do all of its thing. That way it's going to focus all of its energy on those peppers. And so same as here, this one's still not quite there. It's getting there, but it looks like up here is where most of the flowers are going to be originating. So it looks like everything from there down, but that one's still not quite showing peppers yet, so it's got some time. It's going to grow a little more. Same here. This one is the poblano. So the lowest I would say on these, look at that flower right there. Look at that. So like I said, I'll find the lowest one of those when the time comes, and then everything else will go. And then last but not least, you got just your regular old habanero pepper, and that old habanero still got some time. Let's get all this out of there. Somebody's been growing, little spider's been growing some babies up in there. Might take that leaf out of there so they can continue growing their babies, because they are beneficial. They eat a lot of pests that are all around, so I don't mind the spiders being here as long as they're not interfering with me. Okay, so you have a bunch of companions that are all hanging out with your plants, which also marigolds, fantastic companion plant to plant with pretty much just about anything you grow. You can just toss some marigolds in there. They tend to keep away most of the pests that affect most things. Not everything. Sometimes you might need some mint, some lavender, all great pretty plants that provide beautiful smells, but they also deflect pests and whatnot. But let's talk about what we do have. Marigolds. So you'll notice that some of the heads will start to die. Like this one's, I'm not sure if it's dead, but it looks very dead, and so I will pluck that head off right there. That way that gives it a chance to bring up some more. So anytime you see any dead heads, you just go ahead and remove them. And like this one right here, this one's got weirdness to it, so I'm gonna go ahead and just remove it all the way down to the green. Now that will get a chance to grow more up. Same as here, I'm just gonna go down to the green. down to the green, boom. That way they have an opportunity to actually grow more heads, more beautiful flowers, because it's the flowers that actually are, you know, providing the smell, the aroma that keeps things away. Check it out. I've got potatoes popping up. This is one, because there's one here, one here, one here, and one here. These have not done anything. This guy has. But then over here, you know, I was just 4, 4, 4, 4. That one right there, that one's doing something. Can't remember if that's a purple or a red, or if that's a purple or a red. Honestly, doesn't really matter. Your cucumbers are looking fantastic. So let's talk about a few things with cucumbers. So they like to wrap these little tendrils, whatever. They like to grip on with these things. So you see them, they're like, hey, look at that. So I like to direct them over to these things, you know, that they say, oh, hey, look. Yeah, see that one right there? Now he knows that that's there. And so I just want to direct them over there. I lay them over there and let them kind of like find it and do their thing for the most part. And then this one right here, you know, as soon as it gets a little longer, I'll direct it over there to this over here. It kind of knows where it's at. But let's talk about a couple other things. So at this point, you're going to start to notice flowers. So these are female flowers. You can tell based on how they have that little extra long stem hanging down below them. These are what's going to actually create the cucumbers. But those have to be pollinated by another male flower that is somewhere, you know, on this, it will be on this plant. And so as this grows up, there will be varying, you know, different looking flowers. There's going to be a flower that's just the flower part, but doesn't have this little extra bit down here on the bottom. That is the male flower, which that could be one right down there. It's possible. So then if you're not having any luck with it pollinating, then you are going to have to manually do it. And that's a whole nother thing. I'm not to that point yet, as you can see, but when we get to that point, I will show you how it's done. Just remember, when you're growing your cucumbers, consistent but not over watering. You want a good regular schedule, but like I said, you don't want to be over watering. Okay, so green beans, they don't need a lot of trimming to them, not at this present time. So basically at this point, we're basically directing them over to the location at which they're going to begin to make their ascent. And so that's what I have done. I've laid them over. One other thing that's going to help is that these bush beans that are on the outside are going to raise up here, and they're going to kind of support each other and support that. It's all a big support group right here. Is that going to be one that pops up? Maybe we might have another little fella pop up right there. So like I said, basically just directing them over and leaning them in the direction. These guys haven't quite got there yet. I mean, there's only so much you can do. So once those get to a certain point, they will grow and grow and grow. You can still see leftovers from last year where it just grew like crazy. I had way too many. I did 16 on each side, thinking that we weren't going to have enough, because when I grew beans the first time, they didn't do very good at all. And then they just went absolutely insane. And there was just too many. It got up here to the top, and they were just kind of like starting to form together and grow up. So, which will lead to, you know, a whole nother bit of trimming that you'll do at that point. And basically, once it reaches the point that you want to stop going further, snip the end. That's all you gotta do. Just snip the end when it gets to that. Like if it gets up to, you know, like right here, you know, right about here, snip the end, and then it'll start spreading out from the stuff that it already has going down this right here. So that's the way that I didn't do that. I didn't learn that at that time. You know, gardening is a ever learning experience, because you don't really ever know everything, which, you know, that's a lesson of life. So when it comes to this, I just put this in the ground. I'm not going to do a whole lot to it. I'm going to kind of let it just be itself and do whatever it's got to do, grow roots into the ground. I'm not going to stress it out by trimming stuff off or any of that. but it is already starting to produce fruit. Like I said, if you're looking for plants that produce fruit quickly, raspberry bushes, blackberry bushes, they produce fruit like after you've planted it that year. And so do blueberry bushes. So a lot of times you can get a blueberry bush that's already producing when it's at the store, and then if you do it right and transplant it without a lot of stress, it can continue to produce those. And when it comes to my strawberries, I'm not going to trim a bunch of that stuff, to be honest, and because right now there is something that is really liking the leaves right here, so I've got to find out what it is, because I don't see what it is. Oh wait, I see what it is. He's right there. Hello there, feller. Hi. You're not supposed to be eating on this. Does that mean that there's more of you, or are you the only one? Well, I can fix that. Look, you can continue to have this leaf. I don't have a problem with that. I am not going to kill you for it, okay? But you gotta leave my stuff alone, okay? I'm gonna sit you down right here, okay? Enjoy. That said, though, I am getting some wonderful looking strawberries here already, so that's good. I mean, even though they've been getting attacked, but it looks like some fantastic strawberries. Which, that one, I don't like how low it hangs down, so I wonder if I can just like, yeah, look at that. Now it's off the ground. I don't like it when the strawberries are resting on the ground. It's just, I mean, it's dirt. I mean, I want to eat those. But, I mean, it looks like there's going to be quite a good bit of strawberries. I mean, everywhere you see what looks like a flower is where the strawberries are coming from. And like I said, this is ever-bearing. So this is just one of many rounds throughout the year of these things producing. So, when it comes to trimming your herbs, I mean, just other than the basil, I mean, you're just going to basically trim what you need. Look at how beautiful this thyme looks. I mean, it started off as this one little plant, and it's already spread twice as wide. And then the dill, just growing fantastic. Can't remember what that is. Parsley, I do believe, is parsley. And then that also is an oregano. And then this is chive, but also it's a little bit of weed, because we took this from mother-in-law's garden, and there were a couple weeds in there, and then winter came, and now I think it's mostly weeds now.